Welcome back to the Telosive EV podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And the number of gingers on the show has officially doubled. Finally got rid of those other guys. We have a very special guest, Mr. Chris M. from Aptera. How's it going?
I'm great. How are you, Drew?
Good. I'm actually super excited about this because I've gotten to interview Chris A., CEO. I briefly met Steve, and Jason's come on the channel a couple of times, which is always a pleasure. But you're usually who I correspond with, and yet I never get to sit down and get to know you.
I'm busy, just like everyone else.
Yeah, you're keeping the lights on. You're keeping everything running. So Thank you for sacrificing some of your busy schedule for us today. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Well, since there's so many similarities here, it's like I'm looking in a mirror.
We look
First
the
thing I
same
want to
too.
ask.
Minus the beard and like the style.
Yeah. You also dropped your glasses today. Normally you got glasses, so we're even more.
It's a little creepy. We have the same
This
job.
is inappropriate to ask, but how old are you?
I'm 26.
Okay, we're the same age.
Oh my God, no.
I'm guessing you probably had a Minecraft YouTube channel at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, did you?
Well, we all did. Come on.
No way. Okay.
26-year-olds,
How
white
many
guys
subscribers
into
did you have back in the day?
On the gaming channel, probably a couple thousand. How about you?
Nice. My Minecraft channel had 60,000 back in the day.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Are you Captain Sparkles? Who is this?
Right. I used to do Minecraft parodies, so my biggest one has 4 million views. You probably heard it as a kid.
Was it?
It was I Banned You, a parody of FU by CeeLo Green.
See, these are the kinds of details I never get if I don't ask. So that's why I bring it up.
That's nuts, man.
Everybody had a Minecraft channel, though. It's the equivalent of like back in the 80s, everyone was in a rock band. Like everyone in these days, everyone had a gaming channel at some point.
I feel like it's still the case, but now it's Roblox. There was a point in like late high school when I was entering college where I was like, I don't want to play a single game for the rest of my life and make that, because like all my friends, that's their full-time job. They switched to Roblox, YouTube stuff.
Wow.
But I'm like, I felt like there's more out there for me, and I like emerging technology so much that I separated from that. But
yeah, I don't think so. I think the meaning of life is probably Roblox. That's kind of peak career. You can't get much better.
Yeah, it's weird though when you're at that level. I was on a Minecon panel when I was like 13 or 14, like in Vegas, and like kids kept coming up asking for my autograph, but I was also a kid, so it was just super strange. It was a weird time of my life.
That's fascinating. Well, so obviously things changed. I'm curious, how did you bridge from Minecraft celebrity into getting into electric vehicles? Like even before working at Aptera, were you into EVs? How did that start?
Yeah, my story is stupid weird. It doesn't really like it's very very fate-based, it feels like. So yeah. I needed a car in college, so I was originally gonna get like a Mini Cooper because I just didn't know what I wanted. I want something cheap. Ended up finding out, oh, Honda Civics are actually good and like look super cool. So
yeah,
I liked that it had, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. I was like, that is great. And I was jealous of Teslas. Like I couldn't afford one back then, or I thought they were so out of reach. Yeah. But that was like my dream car. But I'm like, I want autopilot, but I don't want to get a Tesla. So then I saw Honda Sensing. I was like, that's the same thing, isn't it? So I got a Honda Civic with Honda Sensing, which is so sketch how I used to use it as a kid. Like I would just like tug the wheel every 10 seconds and like eat food or whatever. But it's not really
like everybody else then.
Yeah. So then I was like, is there something better? I ended up finding out about OpenPilot, which at that point, Comma wasn't even selling a single device. Like OpenPilot is an open source driver assistance system.
Yeah.
So I sourced a phone, a circuit board. I 3D printed the case, and I soldered for the first time to solder the connector up in the headliner to get it working.
Man, you're brave.
Yeah, it was.
That's more than I would have done.
There's a news article about me in Maine because like I was like whiz kid hooks up car to drive itself.
That's awesome. So
But
is
I
that where you
started.
started then? It was in Maine?
Yeah, I'm from Maine, so that's where
Wow.
I did that. Went to college in Vermont, but honestly, like the college thing, it was like a business degree for game production management, so it's more like project management and
Oh,
marketing combined.
interesting.
But the game industry is very volatile, and I'm not really a gamer. I just thought it was cool.
Sure.
So that's
I
what I
can
did.
see where that comes from.
Yeah, so throughout college, I made videos of OpenPilot on my vehicle, on my Civic.
Nice.
And then ended up reaching out to Comma. I was like, I'd love to work there. I eventually the CEO George Hotz, who's the famous iPhone jailbreaker,
Oh,
jailbroke
yeah, yeah.
first iPhone. He jailbroke the PS3. He's a big famous hacker. Um,
Wow.
he
Uh-huh.
reached out, did an interview, and I was like one of the first people out of college to have like a job lined up. So I ended up being head of
Huh.
communications at Comma for a little over 2 years, where we were
Wow.
making Comma devices. I probably shipped 5,000 comma twos as the head of
Dang.
production there too. So I was running the production line and doing all our social media. Um, so
Wow.
that was nuts. Super,
That
super
is nuts.
fun. I happened to stumble across Aptera on a LinkedIn post, like LinkedIn job post. They were looking for a social media manager, and I
Yeah.
was like, that is so cool. I looked into it. I got a reservation right away before I even had a, job interview or anything. I'm like, this is amazing,
Wow.
super neat. And I felt like
So
it.
when was that? Was that 2019 or 2020 when you put the reservation in?
Let's see when I started working there. I don't remember off the
Oh,
top
good.
of
He's
my
got
head. I
receipts.
started working there February 2022. So
Oh, okay. So it was a
maybe
little
in
bit later.
late
I see.
January, maybe I got my reservation in, but I was pretty far behind.
Yeah.
um,
You probably get to jump it a little bit now, though, with the PI builds, I'm guessing.
Yeah, maybe I'll probably borrow one for a while, which will be great. And so we both want to borrow one for a while.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you can borrow one, I can borrow one, we can trade, we
Yeah.
can share. That must have been
We'll
a
share.
big move, though, to go from Vermont all the way to Carlsbad.
Yeah, well, so comma when I moved from Vermont, comma AI is in San Diego, so that's how I came out to
Oh,
California in the
gotcha.
first place. So I was local as at that point, but I
I
moved
see.
during peak COVID. It was super strange to move.
Oh, I bet.
There's no one on the roads when we moved. Totally the right call. Like me and my wife graduated college remotely in our apartment in San Diego, where you just like watch a video where your name comes up and like, yeah.
Yeah, man.
um,
Yeah, that was a weird
it was
weird
weird.
time for sure.
But
But
I liked it for me because I got to like things slowly opened up or like, so I was like, it was in a whole new place. I'd really never been to California before except visiting for a conference for like a few days. That was it. So
gotcha.
I was like, oh, we can go to a restaurant or like, oh, let's check out SeaWorld or, so we ended up getting
Yeah,
integrated and liked it. But yeah, that's how I made the move. I was just happened to be local. I was looking for
good.
a job at some point, saw Aptera, was like, what the heck? That's amazing. I ended up going through the interview process and they were like, whoa, you're like well overqualified for what we were looking for. So they made like a custom job offer for me with like content specialist. And then I was like, done,
Nice.
I'm here.
Wow,
So I didn't even have to
there
move.
you go.
Amazing. Like I lived in the same apartment.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow, you got to transition easily. So, obviously, you've been doing a great job, I think, I just wanna credit you for a minute and sing your praises because
Thank
there's a
you.
lot of different EV startups out there, and I would be shocked if I could find any other EV startup that's as transparent as Aptera is about every stage of development, what the shortcomings are, what the great things are, what's looking good, and what needs work. And you guys, just with the monthly update series, you just don't see it in the industry. Like, hardly anybody is that transparent about, like, here's, I mean, who the heck knows what the HVAC system comes from in any other
Yes.
car?
I
But in
think
the
about that all the
Aptera, that's part of the reason I'm so excited about it, like, getting to drive it around, we'd be able to say, like, "I know where this came from, I know about this, I know what it looks like, I know underneath, I know how it was made and stuff." Like, such a educational experience, even if someone's not gonna actually buy one, there's just so much to learn about the inner workings of a company that you've really opened up and kept, a very, very, open channel for communication with. So thank you for
time. Aw,
your
thanks.
modern approach towards running a startup.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a group effort. You know, Quincy and Audra are great, and Audra's been building her team with Sonia and Will now. So we have a great marketing team, all of us doing our own things. But as the head of content, I really want it to be engineering forward and
Yes,
accurate and amazing. And I mean, we're doing the coolest stuff I think in the world. So we
I
ought to
agree.
share it with people, you know, because the
Absolutely.
journey's as cool as the end product, I think.
I agree. Well, that's sometimes what my friend would say. He'd always go, "Oh man, when the stuff comes out, that's when it's not as fun. It's always the next thing. It's
Yeah.
always the development that's kind of the exciting stage. Once it's out, it'll be fun and we'll drive it around. But then we'll go, okay, what about the next thing? Then we'll be talking about the
Mhm.
next thing and the next thing. So yeah, there's definitely good that comes from both the journey and the destination. But I'm sure it's challenging, especially your position being ahead of everything, having to want to share everything, but also you've got supplier contracts, and I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff you're not allowed to share. I know that this most recent announcement with the Powertrain was in development for a long time. Like, can I ask how long you've kind of known about this big switch?
Yeah, I don't know the exact length. It's over 6 months, maybe closer to a year that
Mhm.
we were, integrating the EMR3, and
Uh-huh.
seeing where it would fit, making sure the frame was accurate for that, doing crash simulations with the EMR3 in simulation. There was a
Uh-huh.
ton of stuff that was going on behind the scenes for a while, kind of in parallel.
Yeah, gotcha. Because I think
Pretty
that
I'd
was
say
a
around
lot
a
of
year.
people's concern.
Yeah, around a year
Yeah,
probably.
I think so too, not to give too much away, but I remember interviewing Chris when the Chris Anthony when the Bink first arrived, and there was some stuff being discussed, I think powertrain wise, and you were like, "Well, we'll share that eventually. Now's not the right time." But it was like
Mhm.
that was back in I want to say November or December. That was a while ago, and I know
Yep.
that there was already some discussion going on a change up. But it's fun to finally have it out in the open so that everybody can know what the final
Yeah.
specs are gonna be like.
I'm thrilled, and I was losing sleep over the announcement just because I want everyone to be happy. I love our community so much, and we're as transparent as we can possibly be. So the second I got approval from the Tesco, basically lined up Steve to be filmed like the next day and like film the
Well,
podcast and just got it all out as soon as we could. So I've always
yeah,
had
that must have
messaging on
been a
how I
tough
wanted it
wait.
to sound, how I wanted the announcement to happen, but it was just the green light, so we just did it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I appreciate that because that I can understand that the supplier might I mean, I honestly don't get it, but because they're an established supplier, they probably have a more traditional way of handling announcements, so you guys are all forward thinking and all modern with how keeping your community up to date, but they're like, "Hold on, we gotta make sure everything's all inked and ready to go," so
Right, and the supply agreements need to be far enough along for a company like that to for us to be able to say that we're using them, right? So even though we've had a
Right.
few, it's the whole different story to be like, yeah, we know we're gonna need this motor for years and years. So that's a lot of what was still being worked on in the last year, I'd say.
I gotcha. Yeah, and as much as I love the Aptera community, I will say, kind of what Steve Fambro brought up in your new announced podcast. If you guys haven't caught that one yet, go check it out. The three wheel podcast. Um,
Yeah.
they're just getting into this as well. So I'm sharpening up Chris's podcasting skills today.
Yes.
But your guys' community is so well knowledged about automotive industry more than most. Like everyone, like whether it be Steve from Aptera Owners Club or anybody in his comment section, like they dive into all the nitty gritty details when it comes to the Newton meters of torque
Yeah.
and they look up the suppliers and they go through all the presentations. So I think it's kind of a moving target. Like it's easy to please someone like me probably because I see lots of different startups that are not very transparent about everything. But you guys kind of give an inch and the community wants to take like, what about this? Did you guys think about this? Why don't they talk more about this? And I'm like, man, could we take a step back for a second and just be thankful that they're actually communicating at all? Like you're straight up as the update videos drop, you're in the Discord servers answering people's questions. I'm like, this just
Yeah. Real
never
time.
happens.
That's a
You're
lot of
like
fun.
real time in there answering everyone's concerns. Like this is rare.
Yeah, it's a fun day when the update comes out. So always I get pretty stressed and anxious about it because I'm like really hope it goes over well, and I'm usually editing it for days and days. So like I'm like, please be good, But
Right.
or like I hope I
I
didn't
get
like
it.
miss a clip, or I didn't in the render like it didn't go to like offline media
Mm.
offline or whatever. You've seen that happen before with Premiere, so it's like
Yeah.
it's all good. A
Right.
lot of
Well,
fun.
it's a good answer about the motor development and how long it's been going on, because I think a lot of the community's gut reaction was just, "Oh, this is a last second change. If they're changing things up right now, isn't that gonna delay production?" But it sounds like it's more the opposite from what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's been in the works for a long time, and I mean it's driving around downstairs like on a bench waiting for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
frame and chassis, and uh, I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited to drive around in that. I think the driving dynamics are going to be excellent. So
Me too. Me too. Yeah, I think, there were a lot of concerns about outward mounted hub motors in the first place, and those kind of all go away now with this new centrally mounted, position. I know some people were curious about 0 to 60 times, which I believe you've said you'll validate once you have PI2 all rigged
yeah,
up and
yeah, we had more data on the previous Alafe hub moters, because we were using them for so long and be able
yeah.
to track test them. But we'll be able to track test PI2 really soon here, and then we'll be able to update those numbers with the kind of the production numbers, like the final numbers. So I think
Yeah.
what people need to understand, and what is really exciting for me right now, is everything on the website up until now has been, what we assume, what we have tested in computer simulations or formulas. They're like really good estimates on what the vehicle will be, but we will be able to confidently say the vehicle gets this much range, the vehicle is this efficient, the vehicle gets this much solar charging, because we're building the PI vehicles. So you can't do
Mhm.
that until you have every single piece as a production piece. As an example, if you did that on Gamma, well, it's made with an entirely different body structure, so that's not even
Right.
like not even close. And now it's made with a different drivetrain, and it doesn't have the full battery. Blah 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 blah. You really need the
Sure.
whole set of production intent parts to be able to
Right.
validate these numbers. So it's interesting because in a normal company, like automotive company, you wouldn't have heard from us until we were done, right? So you just
Yeah.
immediately hear the final specs and be like, yes, the car's already been validated with Aptera, which is the coolest part, but it's also the scariest part. Is like there's changes that happen throughout the course of development, and we just need to be as transparent, talk about them as soon as possible. And I think
Yeah.
generally every change we've made is for the better, at
I
least,
agree.
especially most so efficiency to market, which I think we can all agree is the most important thing. We got to get these puppies on the road.
Absolutely. No, for sure. And I'm curious about the testing process, especially with PI2. Like, you said the PI2 will be able to do range testing and efficiency testing, but I believe you said that PI2 might be missing some cosmetic things. Is
Yeah,
it able to maintain like externally, I imagine it'll be pretty close to what the end product ends up being. So like what differences are you okay leaving out from PI2 that don't affect things like the range or efficiency
right.
testing?
So PI2 starts as like a beta looking vehicle where it um, will basically just be the bank on a chassis, the bank you've seen for PI1 on a
Yeah.
chassis.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually, we'll get the A surface parts, and we'll probably just put them on PI1 and PI2 and PI3 and
Yeah.
PI4. Like we'll get sets. So
Okay.
I guess we can't confidently say which one does the range testing, but it will have to
Gotcha.
be one that has all the A surfaces on it. So I think
Right.
it's very likely that PI2 will be at a state where it can be range tested. We put on the exterior A surface panels and we just do it. I think that's a likely scenario because that'll probably be the furthest vehicle along. The other two will
Yeah.
always be lagging until PI3 surpasses PI2's intent, with PI2 is just for track testing and stuff. Like we're not going to be testing the air conditioning in PI2 as an example, or like
Gotcha.
rolling the
I see.
wiper blade or anything. That's all PI3 and PI4 stuff.
Cool. Oh, those are gonna make for some really, really good update videos. I'm
I
excited.
know.
Um,
It's awesome.
I think it was Steve from Aptera Owners Club who kind of found that US Capitol slide deck that everybody loved to rip into. I'm not sure if that was meant to go public, but
I think we had the assumption that it would, but it really is
okay.
for investors who wanna invest and participate in that round, but super
Yeah.
easy to just put in your email and see it, so it's public, basically.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for letting us take a look at it. Again, with the transparency, there's a lot of information that it's fun to dive into there. But one thing that was kind of interesting to me about kind of the I know they're estimates, but the cost of all the individual parts, kind of the breakdown of where the money goes, is that the Aptera is so lightweight, so efficient that it's kind of reaching a point where it looks like the battery pack isn't the most expensive part anymore, which
Yeah,
is
I think
kind
it
of
is getting to that
typically
point,
the
isn't it?
case.
Yeah. Battery's so small. It might
Yeah,
not be the case. Usually, it is the most expensive component, right? But we have a lot of other innovation going on in the Aptera, so even just the
right,
bank being, you know, 10 parts versus 200 parts in a normal vehicle, it's orders of magnitude easier to make, but it's also not the cheapest thing in the world, but it's the right thing for a lightweight solar EV, so
right, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's some context added there too that, like, having the Bink instead of having a traditional automotive plant that stamps out pieces that need to be painted and all that, it's like, while it may account for a large chunk of the bill of materials now, you you couldn't necessarily lower that with a traditional automotive body.
yeah, there's just a lot of costs that you don't see, that because they don't exist in our vehicle, right? So, like, paint
Right.
shop is one of those. We eliminated 98% of the paint process, so that's massive.
That is,
Usually a
yeah,
paint
that's
shop
huge.
is at least like a 500 million to $1 billion endeavor. So, like, that's more than Aptera's
Wow.
ever raised and will raise to reach production. So it's just really
It's kinda night and day, but it is interesting, though, to think about, like, a vehicle that's now so efficient that there's other things, that are kind of eating into the total cost, or it just makes me wonder, like, do you think that down the road with doing lower range options, like, would that not really affect the overall price as much now? Or do you think that the battery pack has the most room for flexibility on price in the future?
it's a good question. My personal thought would be that it has the most ability to switch up pricing. I don't know
Okay.
if we're gonna like in my personal opinion, it'd be cool if there's an Aptera that was like 150 miles for like that was, pretty cheap for like a college kid or something where they just start only going around
Totally.
town. You still get the solar charging. Like I don't even know if it needs to be more than that, especially with
Agreed.
solar and everything. So there's room for that. I know Tim's excited about some LFP and other cool
Oh,
things.
yeah, yeah. And I've seen a lot of people float, sodium ion around. I know that it's probably not got the cycle life everyone's hoping for, but it was like, "Man, if it gets small enough and cheap enough, maybe it's okay. Just swap it out. It'll be
Yeah,
so."
that's
Just
cool.
laugh.
Yeah. I think it's
But,
neat that I can pick up one of the modules. I mean, they're heavy for sure, but like I can actually hold a module, and there's only 6 of them in Aptera, and I can hold it physically. Like, it's not too heavy for me to pick up, which is I don't know, it feels kind of neat. Everything in Aptera, like the doors, I can pick up. It's just kind of neat to be able to pick up
yeah.
and it's all so
Me
light.
and me and, Chris A picked up the whole bank when I was there.
Yeah,
Like, how many vehicles could you do that with? Maybe that's another, headlining feature for repairabilities. You could say every part of the Aptera can be lifted by hand.
except the the Vitesco EMR3. That's on like a winch to
Oh,
pick up. That thing's a honker.
well, there's some people could
Maybe not
you gotta train a little bit.
maybe not in your eye, but that's okay.
Yeah, you gotta prep a little bit.
Mhm.
But, yeah, you said I think in the Discord you mentioned that the EMR3 is still technically lighter than having all 3 hub motors?
Yeah, I think if we factor in the coolant lines, the high voltage cabling,
Mm,
3 motors, and 3 inverters, this is overall a lighter weight solution for us, yeah, so it's
I
pretty
like hearing
similar
that.
ballpark, but, that's why
Sure.
it's so hard to it's not just like, "Oh, there's drive shafts, I bet the arrow's bad." It's like, "Oh, well, if it weighs less and the arrow's been optimized and this and that and this and that," like, it has a wildly different effect on efficiency, so it's,
Good.
gonna be fun to test. I'm
Oh, I'm
excited
sure.
too.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And especially how how it moves, I think, because all-wheel drive is just I think a lot of people are kind of obsessed with it for traction control, and I've just been kind of trying to tell as many people as I can, like, there's a lot of front-wheel drive vehicles in the snow every year.
Mhm.
Like, they get snow tires, they get chains, like, it's not the end of the world to not have all-wheel drive, but, um, would you are you anticipating maybe it's too early to say, but are you anticipating it'll be faster than the website's current 0 to 60 time?
Yeah, and we talk a little bit about it in the Third Wheel podcast, so plug for
Yeah, yeah.
that. But like this motor is very powerful. It'll have enough power to spin the tires. So now the problem is like how do you get, the most traction tires? Or I think if you like
Yeah,
prep the surface and like got really good racing tires, you could get
sure,
insane acceleration, but I don't know what it would be on a normal street tire. It'll
sure.
likely be, I mean, definitely less than 6. It's just a very
Okay.
fast motor, so we need to do the testing, but I don't think it'll feel slow whatsoever, at all. Even
I don't either.
the two-wheel, like our Alpha vehicles, a lot of them are front-wheel drive. Those things rip. I was just ripping, Luna around today, and it's a front-wheel
Nice.
drive, and you don't you can't like tell the difference honestly from the 2 to the 3-wheel drive, at least in my personal opinion, driving all the prototypes. Like they feel equally zippy and torquey and all that. So I think it's going to be a super
Sure.
fun vehicle. We're not losing the soul of the fun of Aptera at all. I think it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. That's wonderful. Uh, and I think a lot of people are excited, but a lot of people are somewhat scared just because they've reserved other vehicles in the past and had the prices go way up. And I know that there's been a lot of inflation and that kind of thing, but I was curious with your guys' kind of current financial model of the break even point being around 6,000 units. Is it feasible that like maybe short term the price is a bit lower, a bit more reasonable, and that maybe pushes out your break even point? Or is it kind of like, you can't afford to take on too much debt or the vehicle can't afford a gross margin to dip below too far a point?
Yeah, it's a very nuanced thing because someone like Rivian has billions in the bank. They can very, like you were saying, they can very easily subsidize vehicles. We want to make sure that we can turn a profit as quickly as possible in a way that obviously keeps customers happy. Everyone feels like they're getting a great value, but Aptera doesn't just immediately go out of business and disappear. Was that no one would want that?
No,
So
no.
it's extremely nuanced thing. Yeah, I mean the
A
prices
tricky
of
balance.
components continue to go down, and supply chain teams working on, as we get closer and closer, as we can pay suppliers, we can renegotiate. A lot of these quotes are base quotes from a bit ago, right? Because
Mhm.
or they're low volume quotes, or they're just quotes for couple hundred or whatever. We like it's a lot of work on the supply chain side to really lock down pricing. So I think that's why it's going to take a bit. But generally, I feel like the price that we launched with plus inflation kind of gives a good idea of, I think, what it'll probably launch around. That would be my estimate, because that's what we've always said is it's just kind of like what we talked about plus inflation the last few years is pretty close. But
Okay.
obviously, want it to be as affordable as it can without upsetting anybody, right? We want it to be the great affordable EV that we all want. So we're
Right.
pushing for that. We're pushing to make it as low
Just
as it can.
yeah.
I think we'll
Good,
be too
good.
transparent with the costs. We'll be like, listen, cost this much to make. We need to make this much money, or Aptera won't exist, and that's why it's the price it is. Everybody, but that's how we're going to announce it. Honestly,
I would love that, honestly. Even if it's higher than people like, I think the transparency would go a long way of just like, "Do you want an Aptera or not?" It's like, "This
yeah.
isn't gonna work if we price it too low." So,
Yeah,
yeah, I think that goes a long way.
the interesting thing too with our community is we have so many orders, 48,000 orders. I think one that will skyrocket. Two, the price and the
Right.
options people will get in the 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 delivery is going to be vastly different than the launch edition. So though we are only talking about a launch edition on all our social media and publicly, because that's what we're launching. I mean, if you're like 20,000 in line, we'll probably have all-wheel
Even that
drive by
price isn't
then. The
accurate.
price might
Yeah.
be way lower. Or, like there's so much that could change before, the first deliveries and when you get your Aptera. So that's something to keep in
Right.
mind. It's what makes it tough to make decisions or make announcements. I don't want to piss off someone who's 30,000 because like, they'll have everything in the world, right? Or
Right. Right.
a
Yeah.
different world once we hit the 30,000th Aptera. So
Sure. So is it fair to say, kind of similar to Tesla's model, you expect that the price might fluctuate? It could
yeah,
fluctuate more than once within like a month?
it could.
Or
Yeah, it could. I feel like that's a good model. Personally, I think we'll
Mhm.
have the launch price for quite a bit, at least for the first couple thousand or 5,000 units. But
Gotcha.
once we start understanding the market more and like the levers we can pull, we'll have to see what that entails. Yeah. Do you feel like
Yeah.
they do it well? Like, do you like how Tesla does it, or I feel like they do it a little too much. The changes are a little drastic.
I kind of looked at it as like the dealership model with the haggling built in.
Yeah, you're
Tesla
right.
does the haggling for you. They
I
they
do hate like how they're like, there's like a 7% APR one day, then like you buy it that day, the next day it's like a 0% APR. That
Yeah.
sucks.
The Model 3 I paid a lot more than what it's currently, cost, and the new one is a lot better than mine, that's for sure, but at the
Yeah,
same time, I try to remind people like, "Hey, if they jacked up the prices the next day, you wouldn't you wouldn't be considering them coming back and saying, 'Hey, I know we sold it to you for a really low price, but the week after you paid for it, we actually raised the prices. So can we get some more money?' Like, no, no
yeah,
one considers that. But as soon as it goes down, they expect, oh, Tesla should refund me. And I'm like, yeah, come on. It's like, it's a business. It's a two-way street. If there's a price you're not comfortable with, don't buy the thing. If you're comfortable with it at that point in time, that's that. Just don't overthink it. You didn't know what you didn't know. Um,
yeah.
so
Well, hey,
I,
you got your vehicle earlier, right? So like if you waited for the latest Model 3 at the latest pricing or whatever, you wouldn't have a Tesla for however long you've had one, right? So
true.
it
And
always
I would have been
factors
paying
in.
for gas all that time.
I save so much
So
money on gas.
Me too.
Oh my
Me
gosh.
too. I spent it all on flat tires, but I I didn't go to the gas pump.
Yeah,
That's for sure. Um, well, I appreciate the transparency and the honesty there. I think the pricing is always gonna be a difficult discussion, frankly. Like, everybody wants it to be as cheap as possible. Everyone wants a free one, I'm sure. So,
yeah,
you're never gonna please everyone unless you're like, "Oh, it's half off, surprise."
yeah,
But I think as far as, affordability goes, it's important to keep in mind, and, uh, you can bring this up to them as well, that, like, most startups have to kinda start with the more high price items. And relative to the trims you guys have talked about offering, this is really not that high price, especially compared to the first Lucids or the first Rivians or the first Fisker Oceans or any of those. They always started in the, like, 80, 90, $100,000 realm, which is why the community's reaction with Aptera was always kind of surprising to me, because I was like, they're starting with a, probably sub $40,000 vehicle. And we're like, oh, that's too much. Like, look at everybody else.
yeah.
So
It is a wild environment out there for EVs right now. I'm
for sure.
super impressed with Chris and Steve for weathering the storm of the past few years of the stock markets and the anti
Yeah,
EV and everything. I mean,
it's been a lot.
we've come out with a finished design, building them right now. I mean, it's really exciting because it in any startup you have ups and downs. I think it was scary for a while, just seeing everyone
Sure.
else going out of business and other companies not doing the best. But it's all
Mhm.
about money management, being as efficient with your money as you can too. I think a lot of startups aren't
Mhm.
as efficient with money, or they scale back too late or whatever. Aptera is like
True.
very, very good at that. So it's been fun. We've been hiring a lot of new people in the firmware team lately. It's been fun to meet a lot of new Aptera.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna pick your brain if that answer has changed. I've asked it in the past, but, like, what how many units into production do you think you need to deliver before things like CarPlay and Android Auto will be, like, on by default?
that's a great question. It's going to depend on the ramp. I don't know.
Fair enough.
If
I know it's a
we
complex question.
very complex, but I think that's our goal is to launch with those as soon as possible. I think they're going to be awesome and cool defining feature. But at the beginning, it'll still be nice. You'll have Bluetooth. You have actually a place to put your phone, which like most cars don't have, like a nice
Oh,
place
good.
on the dash where your phone sits.
Is there gonna
So
be a charger or something?
that's a good question. I gotta ask Jason. I think we were
Yeah.
talking about if there's gonna be a wireless charger or not.
I was gonna say the Aptera way might be not to have one because that's the most efficient, like, it just makes your phone hot anyway, right?
Yeah.
You
My
could
phone
bring a
always
battery bank.
overheats when it's charging in the car, because they'll have it in the sun, and they're like, "No." My,
Considering the Aptera is the most efficient vehicle ever, that technically means that charging your phone in it would have the highest possible range hit of any
yeah,
phone charger in a
of,
car.
like, a minimal amount, but yeah. That's funny.
Maybe it'll go the other way. Can I power the Aptera with my phone? It'll take the juice.
Well, if you're sitting parked, the solar has to output way more than your phone can
Oh,
use.
yeah.
So infinite phone charge for free.
There you go. I'm already with my current driving, like, pretty much all the driving I've done in the last week, I've never needed more than 2 seats. So I'm already, like, doing the math. I'm curious of what your percentage is, like, what percent of your driving could be covered by the Aptera when you get yours?
Man, I think like 95% at least. The only possible
Wow.
time is like if my parents come visit or someone from out of town comes visit and like me and my wife pick them up at the airport and we drive them around. That's like a week occurrence, like,
Yeah.
you know, out of the year, a couple weeks.
Sure.
Literally every other time it's just me and her or me, mostly just me. And I do have a lot
Yeah.
of junk in the back all the time. Like there's just a lot of boxes and camera equipment and lights and whatnot.
Sure.
It's right now it's like half of it's in the back seat and half of it's in the trunk. I'd rather just have one big trunk, I think. So
I do too,
that'd be
especially when I could access without getting up.
yeah.
That's come up a lot with our driving. It's like, "Oh, it's in the trunk. I have to get out of the car, go all the way to the back, pop the trunk, then reach in." I was like, "If it was in an Aptera, I could just grab it right here. I
I
wouldn't
know,
have
that's
to."
cool. I guess the Aptera is technically a hatchback, right? I guess.
Yeah. I guess so, when you think about it. I mean, it doesn't really fit into the traditional definition of, like, here's what people picture, but it is the back and it is a hatch. So, certain demographics where I think the Aptera will be perfect because it's a two-seater, and by many highways definition, that is a high occupancy vehicle because on many roads today, you only need 2 people to go in the HOV lane. So,
Yeah,
that to me is a big indication of, how many people are typically on vehicles on the road today, which is why I don't see it being a I don't see it as being a two-seater being a huge limiter because, like you said, it's a 1 week within a year that you have to pick someone up and have
right.
that many people in the car.
No, that's true
But
'cause
a
the
lot of
Hove lane is, like, pretty empty, right? Like, and that kinda is a live stat when you're driving down the 5 or something.
exactly, and I've done a lot more driving now with my new job, and how often I see that HOV lane wide open and people can't go in there because they only have 1 person in the car, is
You
I'm
can't
like,
put
"Yeah,
Aptera
I think."
with one person. It's a
Right. It
motorcycle.
qualifies for the HOV anyway, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah,
If it's
but
an
it's
auto
it's a
start.
motorcycle. Yeah, right, it's a motorcycle, so you just go right in, yeah. I feel
Right.
like cops are gonna, like, pull for like, Aptera owners over at first who are in the Hove lane by themselves, and they'll be like, "What are you doing? It's a motorcycle, brother." Like
Probably. I think you're right.
yeah, it'll
Um,
be fun.
I really liked your personal idea as you deemed it, because I think a lot of the overlap for the Aptera is gonna be as a commuter vehicle, like, a lot of people just need something really efficient, affordable that can get them to work and back, in which case, yeah, you're right, kinda seeing how small a battery pack you can get away with would be quite fascinating because most of the EVs on the road, we're looking at 60, 80, 100 plus kilowatt hours. So to have one that could still, get you to work and back and maybe exceed 100 miles of range with like a 10, 15 kilowatt hour battery pack, that would be pretty nuts
That would be nuts,
in
wouldn't
terms
it?
of efficiency.
The lightest weight one too, man, that thing
Mhm.
would be a feather.
It would be. You could probably push that thing the final couple miles if you needed to.
Yeah.
Um, as far as, the roadmap goes, I believe you said the plan is still to start with the 400-mile variant, and then the cheaper option is next. Um, Is that as simple as I think it is, of just, like, taking out a few modules, or is there a little bit more rearranging of the pack?
For that jump, yeah, from the 400 to a lower mileage vehicle, yeah, it would just be taking out some modules, leaving them blank. Maybe some slight suspension tunes, but that's like the
Mm.
easiest. That's the easiest variant I can ever think of. Like, it's gonna be great just deleting stuff, and then you're good.
Sure.
I think the bigger packs have some slight modifications to the lower A surface near the tub, near the
Mm.
belly. If there's taller cells, it just will slightly be different shaped, but not for the less range. Yeah.
This might be a question for someone else, but do you know if those those taller cells, are they in production at all right now, or are those still kinda out there?
It's a good question. I'm not sure. I heard we
Okay.
were going to get samples of them at some point soon, so they must be at least in some form of production from some supplier
Oh, cool.
somewhere. But
Soon samples.
soon samples. Yeah. But if we get the
That
samples, probably won't talk about them because it's far off. But
fair enough, yeah. But the fact that samples are even mentioned is probably an indication someone's making them somewhere,
yeah,
but probably not quite in high volume yet, but like we said, I wouldn't be shocked if I drive the lowest range Tesla, and I've road tripped that thing. I put 50,000 miles on it in less than 2 years, and as long as you've got NACS, which you guys have had since the beginning, um, you don't need a ton of range, honestly. Like,
yeah,
most people can't go that long anyway, which is why I do question, like, what the long-term demand is gonna be like for the big battery, like, 1,000-mile, like, that's gonna be a very specific type of driver.
yeah. It would, wouldn't it? That is interesting. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I had this thought, but I keep thinking about this, and I wanted to bring it up. I'm super
Sure.
excited that there's no more major changes that are yet to be announced. Like we're just pushing ahead with PI builds, and what you see is what you get. Just for
Yeah.
my own sanity, that's really great because I want everyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to
I'm
feel
really
like
glad too.
I need to talk about or need to tell people about and be trying to get it to happen. So we're past that stage, which is really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's, a lot more things being locked down, and there's not being some kind of big change up at the last second. I think that makes a lot of people, feel better. Absolutely.
I keep thinking about that in my head because I was losing sleep over it because I wanted to talk about it.
I'm sure.
We're all
No, I
people
would be
too.
too. Yeah, I keep telling people there's no one more excited or more impatient about these things than you guys, because you're eating, sleeping, breathing Aptera all day, every day, so these things are on your mind constantly.
Yeah.
Are the PI builds gonna be able to do, supercharger testing?
Good question. Technically, yes.
Hmm,
Yeah. Yeah.
that'll be
And
really interesting to
we
see.
need to coordinate with Tesla. Basically, we need to be at a certain stage where we can test with that stuff, and then we can
Mhm,
we can engage with Tesla again. So that
cool.
like the gate is on us right now to have a DC fast charge vehicle ready to test. So that
Yeah,
probably be PI3 that can do that.
wow. Yeah, because I was gonna say, my first plan is to talk you guys into loaning me one of those PI builds for a week or 2.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
And the second part of the plan is how do I get it back? I'll come down there to pick it up, but it it would be better if it had supercharger access. They could probably do it off of a charge point or EA
Mhm.
station, but I like to avoid them if I can help it.
That's fair. I mean, we've already we've charged gamma at destination chargers a lot, so
Oh,
um
that works?
because that's totally, yeah, there's no authentication in a Tesla destination charger. It's just a level
Oh.
2 plug. So that was fun. We were at a
That's cool.
hotel for an event once and we are like, oh, we got to charge for a bit. We just did.
Whoa, I didn't even know you could do that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So worst case, even PI2, you can destination charge, no problem. There's a lot of those too.
Yeah. No, they're especially in California, they're kind of flooded the place with them.
Yeah.
Um, it might be too soon to ask, so feel free to say I can't answer, but as far as, next steps after, mass production of the launch edition, you start delivering more models, is as the marketing guy, do you think there's a proper time with where the company's at before unveiling or talking about maybe future models with more seats, or do you think
Whoa.
uh yeah. It was just that's what me and Jason were talking about last time, so
Oh, that's
it's
cool.
on my mind.
That's cool. My brain is so in the three-wheel brain that I can't even
Sure.
imagine us not being in that in that zone. So
That's the right answer.
that's like
That's a good answer.
that's a mind warp. That's gonna be
Yeah.
nuts. I'm excited for that,
I
but yeah, more excited just for people to be driving these things. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah, that's the priority, absolutely, I understand.
No,
Um
that's wild. Wow, there will be a time where we're talking about other stuff. That's crazy. Blew my
You're
mind.
just so focused on this one, it's like, "Oh, yeah, I guess there might be more." I just know a lot of people are gonna love the first one. That's where my head's at, is like, this is a new brand, it's a new company, and I think you've got good good roots, a good foundation that you're laying here with the transparency, so everyone's gonna keep asking what's next even after deliveries begin. Um, and there's probably gonna be a lot of people that are like, "I love my Aptera, but I want something that can move my whole family too." So
That'll be weird. That'll
it's
be
a
cool.
it's a
But
tricky debate we talk about on this podcast quite often of like, when do you share versus when do you wanna avoid osborning, so you can't share too early. Um, some companies do it like 2 years before they think they can deliver, some do it in 1 year, some do it like 3 months before.
yeah,
I didn't know if you had a preference in your experience, but
that's interesting. I mean, I feel like the monthly updates are gonna be super lame once we're just delivering vehicles. Like, it's like, maybe they don't maybe that part phases away, I guess, and then there's more like I really always liked there were some Tesla stories back in the day where, like,
Hmm,
it'd be, like, someone talking about their experience with their Tesla, like, Tesla would fly out and film it, like, at their house. I feel like that's
mhm,
stuff I really wanna do once there's customer deliveries is, like, how does this affect your life? Because like, solar charging is so hard to talk about. People don't understand it. I think if you have all
yeah,
these real world stories around the US or the globe, like it's gonna help new people understand it. So I feel like that's where things might start to go content wise after we are just cranking them out. Probably don't need to
totally.
do as much on the process anymore because it's been done. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. No, that'll be a great idea, I think, because then seeing the real world data probably brings in a whole 'nother wave of orders. You guys have already racked in a bunch just from the concept of it, but once owners and real people are driving it around, that changes a lot for sure.
Yeah.
But is there anything, as you know, I've kind of followed in your footsteps. I'm now trying to help out with Tello and their social media team. Is there advice or things I should learn, or um, things I should avoid from your experience? You're kind of the guru here.
Well, you're doing a great job. I love the
Thank
content
you.
you're making. You're really doing a great job. Yeah, we can talk about cameras and lighting
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff if you ever want, but I do like I feel like yours feels even more raw, which is exciting. It is a smaller company and it's at an
right,
earlier stage, so I
right.
like that a lot. If you watch like the videos I'd make with Kama, we would do like live streams where we just walk around. I'd like talk to the people in the different rooms and like, hey, what are you doing? And like I feel like that stuff's super engaging at that stage, even at Aptera's stage. Seems like that live stream
Yeah,
pretty well, so that's exciting. Yeah,
no,
keep it
that's a
up,
good
man.
idea.
I really like what
Okay,
we're the
awesome.
same
Yeah.
person.
I know.
No?
It's getting a little spooky, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's too bad. Um,
That's too bad.
but yeah, I just keep thinking about something we're probably neither of us are very ready for, but probably my biggest concern for my Aptera is the amount of attention it's going to draw, because I am really not a big attention seeker. Like, I drove my friend's Cybertruck out in Arizona, and just the 15 minutes we were doing that, it was already getting a little bit annoying. I was like, I can't imagine owning this for months and months at a time, like everywhere you go. Like, are you prepared to like carry business cards with you? Are you gonna put a QR code on the side, or what are
I
you gonna
definitely
do?
want like I'll keep like a pack of stickers because that's I think the easiest, and I'm just like, here you go. But I'm generally kind of introverted most of the time. At Aptera,
Sure.
I appear extroverted. So I'll
You
have to
kinda
get
have
used to
to,
that.
yeah.
Like in my car, I'm just driving around like this, like, I'm just staring off in the distance, like on open pilot doing nothing, so I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah.
social at all. Yeah, that'll be weird. It is weird when I take the prototypes out. I feel like I'm in Aptera mode the whole time. Like I'm ready like
So it's
every
gonna
10
be
seconds.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
probably gonna be hard to switch from, like, "Okay, I'm only in the Aptera when I'm working," to now, "I'm in Aptera for just day-to-day stuff." Now
yeah.
it's like I'm always working. I'll probably feel similarly.
Yeah. That'll be cool. I mean, Uh, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Audra and I keep talking about once there's a PI vehicle that, marketing gets to use for whatever we want. I feel like we should do a road trip where it's just like me and her, or like me and Quincy or something, just with like a tent in the back and some stickers and hats, and we just drive to like different people's houses around the US and like set up pop-up events. I mean, it's
Oh,
gonna be
I
the
love that
most
idea.
startup-y idea ever, but I feel like it's super cute and like wholesome, you know?
Absolutely.
And there's like someone's
And
tracking Aptera across the US. There's spottings on X. Like that'd be
yeah.
nuts. It's like Cybertruck sightings.
Right. No, it really gets people talking, which is kind of the exciting thing about it. You can come up here as well, and then I can join
I
you.
sleep at your house.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll
Lots of
park.
sun, especially up here. You'll have a, kind of a destination charger if you need it. You
Yeah.
probably won't because of how sunny it is, but yeah, I got lots of spaces I can park it. Um, oh, I remember there was a question someone was having about, how the front wheels are kind of mounted externally from the main body. Like some people are curious about uh wanting to avoid, curbing the wheel pant on the right because they will be sitting on the driver's side. And we were theorizing in the Discord how possible it would be. The cameras probably won't be able to show it that well, but like, could you, as you're pulling into a place, like pop the passenger door from the screen to look out because it goes up? Or
Good question. I think in production, so for safety, the doors pop to here, and then you assist them open. So someone would have to reach
oh, okay,
all the way, but it is assisted. I think the
gotcha.
ultrasonic's going to be more than enough for those situations.
Oh,
You know.
that's right. You guys still have ultrasonics.
Yeah, it's in the nose cone, so it can see front and side, so it'll have like a cone of vision.
Wow.
For parking and stuff, that's gonna be good. I think on the road, I mean, you're probably a lot less likely to hit the curb, like, when you're driving
Yeah,
fast, 'cause you get used to it. Do you
sure.
wanna see a part that's in this room?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah, audio listeners, you're missing
Yeah,
out.
taking pictures of it already. This is a,
Whoa.
washer fluid for that the only other one
Oh,
that goes
hey.
the door. This is the fluid thing. So it has
That's
the
gotta be like the only maintenance on the Aptera, right?
Yeah, see, it has, like, the motor on the back too. Oop. So it's
Oh.
fully integrated and then it sprays out, so
That's
we have, like
awesome.
like
Where
5.
does it is it does it spray out from the wiper?
I think there's a nozzle, like, on the hood. I don't think it's on the wiper. Yeah. The same
Gotcha.
supplier that gives us this does the whole, gives us the wiper blade, obviously the pump is already built in. It's all
Oh,
it's all by
cool.
done by the same supplier, the wiper blade and everything, so that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know, this
Nice.
is fun. Stuff like this comes in, it makes me happy.
Yeah. Seeing all the production grade stuff, it's like if you were just, making pretty prototypes for the sake of impressing people, you wouldn't need stuff like that. But the fact that that's showing up is a sign like, yeah, we're gonna need every nut and bolt here pretty soon. So,
Yeah, it's
uh,
crazy. Some of this stuff was ordered, like, 6 months ago, some of it was ordered a couple months ago, like, the lead
wow.
time and the mess of the supply chain world is nuts to me. Like, as consumers, you and I are just like, "Oh, let's just Amazon Prime this thing," or like, "Oh, this exists so I can buy it." Like, it's not really true in the video
Yeah,
world.
sure.
You gotta
Uh,
sign your agreements.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get used to it. I know that there's been talk about kind of replicating the factory you've got there in different places of the world. Um, is there would you have to go to those places, I assume, for content or updates?
Yeah, someone. Maybe
Someone's
the
gotta do
content
it.
team will be big. by that point. I don't know, but I hope I get to go to Italy more, and you know,
Oh man,
I
that'd be
mean, I
fun.
loved going to CPC, and as we have more suppliers around the world, I hope I can visit one day. You know, that's a lot of fun. So yeah, I think there's a lot of traveling potentially in my future, which would be cool. Me and my wife. I
Is
mean,
there? Yeah, Italy would be a cool one for sure. You think that that would be assembling more like locally for like the European market?
yeah, I think that makes the most sense for the European market, that there'd eventually be an Aptera factory near CPC.
Mm,
So maybe it'd be
that's
like,
logical.
yeah, it's a beautiful town. It's so nice. Paco showed
I
showed me
bet.
and Audra around. Is like all the pasta's amazing. You know, it's pretty different
It's
than
Italy.
here. So
Wow. Man, I my mind keeps getting blown a bit, and honestly, I'm sorry I keep bringing this up, but the community's reaction to the pricing is still perplexing to me because I'm like, this is a carbon fiber, uh, super powerful, 200 horsepower, super efficient, solar charging, radically looking vehicle, and then compare that to, like, other two doors on the market, like the Mustang or a Camaro or a Miata or a Corvette, and it's
yeah,
like all those are gonna cost more than the Aptera easily, and
even even the Polaris Slingshot, which I think is super awesome, super cool. I think it starts at like 20-ish thousand, and you can spec it up to like 25,000, and that has no crash safety. You know, it's open top, like it
right,
just
so
has,
you can't drive it in the snow or the
yeah.
rain.
It's like it, and nothing. And I'm not dissing it. I think it's a cool vehicle, but that's like a
Yeah,
hobbyist toy. Whereas like this is a, you know, like a real vehicle that you can drive in the snow, and it has air conditioning and heating, and it's enclosed.
right.
And I mean, just that price difference isn't that high to from like a
No,
Polaris to an Aptera. It's like, whoa.
not at all, especially when you factor in that it's fueling itself. The Polaris isn't gonna just pull gasoline out of thin air. That would be cool, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think, the efficiency focus resonates with so many people. That's why you've got such an incredible community and a lot of excitement, and um, it's it's kind of feeling more real to me now that kind of the public investment is somewhat like it's done now that you're moving over with U.S. capital. Like, oh, so it's like even if I want to jump in now, it's I gotta wait for the IPO.
you
Sun
can't.
A, right?
Yeah, Sunday. Oh man.
How do you know how many uh ticker names were thrown around?
I think you can put in 5 to apply for it, and then they give you one of those back. It's
Oh,
something like that. So you give us a couple options, and then they tell you which one is available. Um,
interesting. I
it's
wonder what those other ones were.
me too.
They don't tell you? Or you won't tell people?
Chris knows. Chris knows. I don't know what he put. He did it a while ago. It's like a web form. You just like, yeah, reserve your
Interesting.
ticker symbol. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah, exciting times ahead. It's crazy to think that, for about what the average vehicle costs today, you'll have a probably, 0 to 60 in well under 6 seconds, 400-mile range, carbon fiber body, airplane looking solar charging thing on the road, especially for your first vehicle delivered. That's just kind of unheard of in the auto space.
Right.
So
And
many
the fit and finish is all going to be incredible because CPC's experts at it. Like the panel gaps are
good.
almost non-existent. It's going to be nuts. It's going to feel like we've been making vehicles forever when you
Yeah.
get even the first one. You know, so
I
that's
bet.
exciting.
My advice is to really prototype with the phone key stuff, because that's that's, something that I feel like who was it? Fisker did not test very thoroughly, so a lot of people just couldn't get into the freaking car, which sounds like a simple thing,
Oh
but
man,
when it comes up every single time you try to use it, it gets old fast. So,
that is rough.
mhm.
That's rough.
You wanna be good and solid and working reliably before Marquez gets his hand up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. The eventual goal of PI4 is for it to be ready to be taken and by journalists or someone like you for like a week or something. Like that's the eventual goal of PI4. So
say no more. I have it here, folks. He said it. PI4. Yeah, you can sell all the accelerator vehicles, but I'll take PI4. That'd be fine.
I'll give you Luna. It won't.
I would take Luna.
Yeah.
I would take Gamma at this point. Honestly, Gamma ruined my Model 3, if I'm being honest. I was talking with so many people about why I think blind spot cameras should be mandatory. Like for health reasons, older people can't, turn around very fast and check their blind spot. And the fact that I've gotten used to on my car just having the blind spot camera come up whenever I signal, it's like that's a really safety critical feature now. Rivian's adopted it. Then I was like, the Aptera doesn't even need to adopt it because they've got the screen constantly showing your blind spots right behind the yoke. And I was like, that's better, actually. Now you don't even have to signal to see in your blind spot. So as soon as I drove Gamma around and got used to having the cameras right there, I got in my car and I was like, oh dang, I have to keep signaling to see those.
Yeah, I do want to steal Gamma. I love it so much. But it's gonna be like 10 times better in the PIs, like everything about it. So that
for sure
blows my mind all the time that I see the prototypes get better every iteration, and the PI vehicles will just be next level. Because I would be happy with Gamma like today, no questions asked, just put a bigger battery.
Me too.
Give it to me, like I'm ready.
I was ready to go after you. We both were in it. That's right. It was you. We were driving it around, and I had that big road trip to do afterwards. I was like, oh man, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Let's do it. So
Yeah. Oh, man, thanks for the continued support, Drew, and the videos, and the podcast is super fun. I really enjoy listen to it sometimes. I listen to all your videos too. So I'm a fan. You're doing great work.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hopefully I'll come back on sometime when everyone else is here too. We can all chat.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Well, I hope the next time we talk, it's going to be down there. That's my hope.
Let's do it.
We
Great.
can catch up. Last question I'll ask, just to set the record straight for all the people who ask. Are you paying me to say nice things about you?
I would no. I would not.
A lot of people think I am, and I'm like, no, this is just genuine excitement. But
we do not pay you. We don't pay Aptera Owners Club. We've done some very, very limited things with certain influencers on Instagram where you can see like it's a paid for promotion at like the Huntington US Open of surfing. That's the only time we've ever paid.
Yeah.
So we like JRig everything. Rich rebuilds. Like everyone's legit, Aging wheels. They're all just
you didn't pay them either, huh?
We didn't pay. No, we didn't pay anybody.
Wow.
Yeah, we didn't pay anybody. Which is good for cash flow reasons as well. So
yeah, that's fair. Understandable. Well, thank you so much. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you everybody for listening, and we'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.